Before Bigfoot, before interviews, before the podcast, there were a few early cases that shaped everything for me. They weren't famous locations, they weren't dramatic TV moments. They were small, quiet cases that stayed with me. So, we're going to talk about 10 things from my very first cases, plural. Why I took the first case, what those first locations felt like, the first case that shifted something in me, the first time you felt real fear, what your thoughts ghost hunting would be like, the drive home after these early cases, what you got wrong in the beginning, the first lessons the paranormal taught me, how those cases changed you, and number 10, the bridge to Bigfoot. All right, so let's talk about these guys. Going back, we have so many new listeners and viewers that I just wanted to kind of reminisce back a little bit here to get everybody kind of caught back up. We're getting so many new viewers and listeners, and thank you to all the new subscribers and followers and listeners out there. So my first paranormal case, that one was absolutely nuts. Absolutely nuts. Things happened I never thought could happen. Where do I start? Okay, so a guy named Josh contacted me. Previous to this, my wife and I and a bunch of my friends had been usually going out to other locations and just, famous locations, the Queen Mary, the Whaley House, other places like that, all throughout California, sometimes into Arizona, Nevada, whatever. We explored. We went and stayed in haunted locations overnight and tried to experience something, right? We never really used very much gear till the end where I started getting more serious and I started using a video camera and taking more pictures and stuff like that. And I used to have a lot of pictures of ghosts and stuff. Unfortunately, something happened and all of my stuff got wiped from my computer, but we won't talk about Big Brother here. I got a little bit more serious. A show came on TV and everybody's like, Matt, that's totally you. You got to put a team together and start helping people in their homes, right? I'm like, oh yeah, that'll be fun. And I didn't realize what I was getting myself into. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. Lot of learning and learning how to do things and how to help people and how to deal with these things and what to tell them after something happens or you get this crazy piece of footage and they're already terrified or whatever. Most of the time they're scared of what's going on in their home. They're, possibly ready to move out because they're so afraid of this haunting. And then you're sitting there telling them, oh, well, yeah, here's what we caught. We got all this stuff. We got voices on audio. We got video, right? We got this piece of video evidence where something moves and all this other stuff. And they're like, they're getting more and more scared. We'll get into that in a second. Okay, so let's talk about why we took that first case. I was young. I was in my early 20s, 22, I think, when I first took my first case, and really became a professional, what they call a professional ghost hunter. So long time ago, right? Anyways, so we got this call from a guy named Josh. We went over there and we didn't expect anything. We didn't expect anything to happen, right? So we're in there and I think we had one IR video camera. It was an old Sony Handycam that had infrared on it that you could actually use, which is, common today, is using IR cameras to record in the dark so you can see. Originally I started with a big old VHS camera that went over my shoulder and I had to have a flashlight to see and, big VHS video recorder and had to go back and watch the video on, a TV so you could see what had happened. And then, started with an old clanky, my dad's audio recorder that he used with a little bit, cassette tape to essentially dictate to his secretary because he was a lawyer. And that's how I started. That's the two pieces of gear I started with. But at this point in time, I had to go out and actually get a digital audio recorder. And so that was different. I was not used to being able to download audio or anything like that into a computer and stuff like that, or be able to use video cameras that actually recorded down into a computer so we could actually edit it and clip pieces out and stuff. So some of the questions I get asked, because I was talking to a couple guys from work the other day, and they were saying, well, were you trying to prove something? Were you skeptical? Were you just curious? Were you just testing yourself? Did you want validation? Did you really know what you were doing? Basically, I didn't really know what I was doing at that point in time, but I wanted to learn. We had been out with several different other paranormal teams, ghost hunting teams on cases, and they came with us to a couple of cases as well. But this was the first time we were actually off on our own, doing our own thing. We were taught debunking and all that stuff, and we work with the TAPS family member teams and became a TAP family member team. And so we debunked for the first, 2-3 hours. Nothing really happened. We tried to find explanations for what was going on, and we felt pretty confident that we had, figured it out. And then I don't remember who it was. One of the team members saw a shadow in one of the bedrooms. It went through into the hall and then into one of the bedrooms, and we just thought somebody was home. So we went in there and we're looking around. We're like checking the closets. We're like looking under the bed, and there's nothing there. And we're trying to figure out what just happened, but we didn't get it on camera. We just saw it visually. So we're like, okay, this is weird. And that's when things really started to pick up. So I was in there trying to figure that out, and a couple of my other investigators were actually out in the garage. And the gentleman's dad had passed away, so he basically had moved into the house and was a caretaker for him, and he passed away one night, and it had been 3 months, and after he passed away, there was a lot of activity that was going on. There's also a dog that had recently passed as well in the house. So we're in the house and we're trying to figure out what's going on, right? So then somebody yells at me, Matt, come in the garage, come in the garage. I'm like, what? So his dad's car was parked in the garage still, and across, it's just a single car garage. It's pretty long, but you could walk around the car and stuff. There was plenty of room. And on the other side, he had his tools, kind of his grandpa's tools. His dad's tools all over there. And then there was built-in shelving, right? And one of the shelves had a 45-degree angle 2x4 and a very large nail hammered into it. And on that nail was actually a wrench, a good-sized wrench. And they're like, when I walk in there, like, this wrench just started moving back and forth. And I'm looking at it, and it's actually just swinging back and forth, vertically back and forth at us. I'm like, what the hell? And so I'm like, okay, you guys are messing with me. I just thought I was being skeptic at the time, right? I was being skeptical of it. I just thought they were playing a joke on me. And I've talked about this before. So I grabbed the damn thing and I stopped it. It was completely stopped. And I said to whatever was out there, okay, make it happen again. Make it swing again. And I kid you not, I watched this thing start swinging back and forth and back and forth. And it just started going. It was like 2 or 3 minutes, and it just never stopped. And I'm like, what the hell? And that's when we saw a shadow, like, peek up from the other side of the car. We were on the other side. We turned around. We're like, what in the heck just happened? Now my curiosity's like spiking, right? And so I'm chasing this car around this vehicle, and I'm running this way, and it's running around the other way. It's just like, it was like basically the coyote trying to chase the roadrunner, right? Round in circles. Everyone's just watching me run around in circles. I'm trying to, and they're seeing the shadow too, and we're all like, "What the hell is that?" And God, that went on for like 10 more minutes. So we went in and we sat down on the couch and the um, guy that lived there came in we were telling him what was going on, and so we started doing an EVP session, and we invited him to participate, and so he starts asking questions too, and basically we got a bunch of answers. We got answers to the questions that he was asking. It was his grandpa, and then as we were sitting there, um, basically something short and about 2 feet tall. I was sitting on a chair, and literally I saw something run over to where the owner was, and it was sitting over by him. And I looked over. I'm like, "What is that?" I couldn't figure out what it was. It was just a dark silhouette of something. It looked like a dog. I'm like, "What is that?" And I'm like, "Is that a dog?" And as soon as I said that, that dog ran over to me, and I was wearing shorts. And all of a sudden, it was standing right next to me. I'm like, it looked like my dog in the dark. If you just imagine a dog, a darker silhouette than the dark is when you get up in the middle of the night to go to the restrooms or something. There's no lights on. Essentially, that's what it looked like. And all of a sudden, it started drooling on me. I'm like, what the hell? I reached down, and I wiped it off, and there was actually liquid on my hand. I was like, did you have a dog? Oh, he's like, yeah, my dog just recently passed. I think your dog's still here. But anyways, yeah, I mean, it just perked my curiosity. I mean, I walked in there very skeptical because that's what the TAPS family member teams do. They go in skeptical. They try and disprove everything, and whatever's left is basically what you got. I was definitely there to prove something. I wanted to see if I could figure out what was going on, and get some answers for this family. And I wanted validation of my own experiences. I wanted to see if I went into somebody else's home, if they were experiencing the same things that I was, and I experienced a lot of the same things that I would if I was living, at home, staying at home with the paranormal activity I experienced at my house. So yeah, it was very interesting. That first case. That's basically what that first case was about. Um, so when I went into those locations, this is point number two. What those locations felt like, not just what happened, but the atmosphere. So sometimes when you walk into a location, and actually this just recently happened to me last night in my own house here in Texas. I was sitting in the living room, and there was a weird smell. It almost smelled like garbage or something, and it just popped up. And I'm like, "What is that smell?" And I didn't hear anything. The temperature didn't drop. There wasn't. There was definitely silence. I was actually sitting out there watching TV at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. There wasn't any tension. My body definitely reacted a little bit. I did get goosebumps, um, but essentially, I didn't experience much of anything. But on my first few cases, I did smell perfume at one point at a location. We were in Brea, California, helping a family. We walked in, and there was a smell of like perfume, which was strange. And temperature fluxes are very normal when you first go into locations. Cold spots. So a lot of people report cold spots, and cold spots is basically just where, if you, let's say you have the air conditioning set to 70 degrees, and you walk into a location and you've done your ambient temperature checks, and you've essentially looked around with the temperature gauge, and you've gone through the whole house, and you've got a base range of about 69 to 70 degrees, and you're sitting on the couch and you're doing an EVP session, and all of a sudden you can just feel the atmosphere change. It's a strange sensation. You're, the hair in the back of your neck stands up, or you get the goosebumps. And then all of a sudden, everything kind of just, all the normal noise that you hear, the white noise that you hear with your own ears, it seems to go quiet. Then the temperature falls. And if you're using a device, maybe that device will light up. Let's say it's a K2 meter. Maybe you have you're doing an EVP session, which stands for electronic voice phenomenon, and you're recording audio, and you don't hear anything at the time, but you go back later and listen, and you have asked a question like, "What's your name?" and then you get an answer with a name. Maybe you have a ghost box or a spirit box. Maybe it's just been blurting out nothing but gibberish all night, right? We didn't have a spirit box back then. We didn't have a ghost box back then. We had K2s, we had audio recorders, we had EMF detectors, and then we had what do we have? We had video cameras, some video cameras, DVR systems. What else do we have? We didn't have a whole lot of gear. And then back then, we just basically, it was almost basically all EVP sessions. Most of the time, you go in and just do EVP sessions and use the K2s to try and communicate with whatever was there. Every once in a while, we get a K2 spike. This is later on. We didn't really have K2s when we first started. Like I said, mainly when we first went into these locations, it was just about doing EVPs and using the cameras to try and document anything you saw. But sometimes you walk into some of these locations and they would get really thick. The environment, the atmosphere would just change. You'd walk in and it'd just feel heavier, thick, like something bad had happened there. And your attention automatically just goes up. You're you're on guard. You're like, okay, there's something just doesn't feel right here, right? You're feeling like you're being watched. You feel like you're not alone and stuff like that. So let's talk about the first case that shifted something in me. I would have to say every case touched me a little bit, changed me a little bit, changed my focus, changed the way I did things. I would say when I first walked into my first case, I was pretty cocky. I was pretty cocky. I was, very. This should be easy. We should be able to get something really fast. I mean, there should be. We're either going to debunk this case, or we're going to catch a lot of data or evidence, as people call it. We're going to get. We're going to get to the bottom of this quickly. Nope. Like I always say, I learned after my first about 10, 15, 20 cases that when you go into a home or anywhere, when you first walk in, it's like if I walked into I always use this as an example. If I walked into your house and you didn't know who I was, and I started looking around and looking in cupboards and looking for, EMF to figure out what was going on and trying to debunk things that were going on with electricity and trying to figure out why you were experiencing, the homeowners were experiencing something. And I started asking questions and pulling out all these weird devices and pulling out cameras and stuff like that. And you didn't know me from, anything. You'd probably be like, what in the world is going on, right? You'd be really, you'd either be scared or you'd be curious, maybe, or maybe a little bit of both. You'd probably go hide, right? You'd probably go hide in your closet, or you go hide under the bed, or you go, go get away from me, because you don't know who I am. You don't know what I'm doing. You don't know why I'm there. You don't know why I'm in your house. And you don't know, maybe you don't know your past, right? You don't know you've passed on. So, when you go into these cases, you're not going to get something right away. You have to kind of build a relationship with the entities that are there. You have to build trust. You have to learn how to do that. You have to learn all these skills. There's a lot of skills that go into this, and you have to be personable. You have to be non-scary. You have to think of the entity as a fellow human that's, basically just doesn't know what's going on. Maybe they don't know they're dead. Maybe, they've had something traumatic happen to them. Maybe, there's all these maybes. So I think the first thing that made me pause was that, I mean, I'll never forget watching that wrench go back and forth. that really made me stop and pause and go, "Oh my gosh, there's something more to this. This is crazy." I mean, I've seen, up to that point, besides seeing my closet door open and close, and a few other things, I'd never seen a human spirit be able to move something, right? I've never been able to see them do that. And so this is a very intelligent, strong entity at this location. And um, it just made me pause. It just made me stop and go, "Oh my gosh, what the heck?" Okay, this changed the game for me because I never experienced something like that. It made me question what I was doing and if it was safe for us to be doing that. And we had a couple of people quit because of that. People were like, "You know what? No, this isn't what I thought it was." You see it on the shows, you see stuff move, or you see shadow person, or you see whatever. But until you've experienced it in person, it's not the same. It really is not. And then having things answer your questions, where you can actually understand what they're saying. It's not just gibberish. And I'm sorry to the spirits or ghosts out there that have been trying to communicate and aren't able to. But when you get one that can actually communicate with you and it's very clear, like I'm talking to you now on the audio, where you can actually understand it, which is called a Class A EVP, it makes you a little uncomfortable. It's almost like a gut check. It's like, oh, okay, this isn't just fun and games. This is real. And it basically makes you go, oh, okay, or this is real. It just got real, right? And you're listening back, you're excited, and you're, oh my gosh, but how do I present this to the client? And they're already scared, so you have to figure out how to interpret what you're hearing too, and to maybe pause again and say, okay, now how are we going to present this to the client? Yeah, we don't want them feeling like they need to move out or whatever, but maybe this entity needs help. Maybe it needs something that it isn't getting. Maybe it just has a message. Maybe it has, maybe it just wants to be known. Usually when spirits start to act up like that and we get a call in, there's a reason for it. They want something. They need something. They have something to tell you. Something else is going on. Maybe they're getting beat up by a negative entity. Who knows? And every case is, I don't care how similar they seem, every case is different. So, number 4, the first time you felt for real, fear for real, real fear. I would have to say the real time I really was really scared was when we did the exorcism for that family. And God, talking about fear. I mean, that was crazy. I think the scariest part, honestly, was when the priest walked out of the room and said, "I gotta go," and handed me the Bible and the cross and said, "Good luck." And I'm sitting there like, "What are you talking about?" And we're in the middle of this exorcism, and I'm like, he said, just read from that, you'll be fine. You're a believer in God, and all this other stuff, and you just keep going. And I'm like, what in the hell just happened? Never heard from that priest again. Could never get a hold of him. Could never get a hold of him. We did have cell phones back then. They were just brand new, but yeah, we could leave voicemails and stuff. But God, that was that. Talk about a reality check. I mean, I'd experienced the darker side of the paranormal before, but nothing like that. Nothing like that. And to see what I saw that night, I don't even want to get into it, to be honest with you. But the visions I had, and I mean, everything you hear about exorcisms, real exorcisms, is real. Things moving, the chair floating with him on it, freezing cold. I mean, it got freezing cold in there. We could all see our breaths. Um, the angels appearing behind him and the light behind him. That was gives me goosebumps to talk about it. Good goosebumps, not bad. Yeah, but that, God, um, then I want to leave. What did it do to my body? How did I feel? I got goosebumps at one point. I think I got a little sick to my stomach at one point too. It definitely was able to manipulate my thoughts and put its own into my head and show me things that it had done to people, using people to do bad things to other people. Uh, yes, I did want to leave. I wanted to leave so badly. I wanted to get the hell out of there too. But I couldn't leave. Something told me, you cannot leave. You need to finish this. 3 hours later, we're still going at it with this thing. And I mean, he's sitting there, and we weren't recording anything. I didn't want any of this data on, I call evidence data. I didn't want any of this on video. I didn't ever want this ever to be heard again. To be honest with you, I was, that was, um, God, it was nothing but bad. The whole thing was bad. I mean, this poor kid, um, he just was so caught up in the power of this entity, he didn't want to let it go. I mean, unfortunately, he was just starting to peak. This thing was making him feel powerful and excited, and he could do whatever he wanted and get away with it and stuff like that. And he just, he was feeling the peak. He had not hit rock bottom yet, unfortunately, where this thing was basically tearing his soul out of him, essentially. Um, where basically, I don't know what happened to him after the exorcism. I did try and follow up with him, but I never heard back. We did try and follow up to, continue the exorcism later, but we never heard back, and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, that was probably the scariest case I've ever done. I mean, it's just, no, I don't ever want to do that again, to be honest with you. Okay. What you thought was ghost hunting was going to be like. Well, like I said, when we first started, it was Amanda and I, and whatever friends wanted to go with us. We would basically pick a location, the Whaley House. We'd go to the Whaley House. We go to other haunted, the Queen Mary. We spent so much time on the Queen Mary. We basically just started out with a video camera, and we'd go on ghost tours and stuff like that. And we just go and try and experience things. We didn't really have any audio recorders when we first started, technically. This is back when I was 19. And it wasn't until 3 years later that we started doing helping people in their homes with actual gear and stuff. But we met Chris Fleming and Jason Hawes and all of the people from the Taps family members and stuff like that on the Queen Mary one night after they were doing a basically an event there and stuff like that. So we got a chance to talk to them. It was fun, but I thought ghost hunting was just going to be what you saw on TV, and when we were out just basically having fun, and it was just all easy. It was simple. It was just go try and experience something, and hopefully you have an encounter. Oh, Jesus. That's Jack back there. If you're watching video recorder, watching the video, sorry if you're listening to audio. He jumped up on the back of my chair without me knowing. I didn't even see him coming. I'm about scaring you. But we didn't originally start with gear. We had we had just snap cameras. I think we had a 5 megapixel camera that was brand new, that Amanda got for Christmas or something like that. But we just took pictures, and then we went over to helping people. And Amanda didn't come with me on the first couple of cases, and that was basically, she just stopped coming with me to investigations after that. But essentially it got serious. We started getting equipment. We bought our first K2 from Chris Fleming on the Queen Mary. I still have that K2. And then we started getting audio recorders, and then we started getting video cameras with infrared because we needed more equipment. We got DVRs. We had three DVRs, and at the peak of being the California Ghost Hunters, which I ran for 13, 14 years, we had 30 people. We had 3 different teams going out on a Friday or Saturday night, essentially with 3 different DVR systems. Everybody had at least one handy cam um, with the night vision. Everybody had their own K2s. We had EMF detectors. We had audio. Each had at least 1 or 2 audio recorders, really expensive audio recorders, by the way, and stuff like that. And as we got better gear, we got better evidence. And of course, as we went on, um, I think we ended up getting a spirit box towards the end there. And I just, unfortunately, the audio recorder, the little speaker that comes with it, is a joke. Those little golf ball speakers. So if you ever get a speaker box or whatever, get yourself an external audio jack and plug it into a actual really nice microphone. I'm sorry, speaker, and you'll be able to hear what's going on better. But the equipment definitely got better as we went. We documented all kinds of crazy things. We got clearer voices, way better proof of things going on. Some of the EVPs we got were just crystal clear, as I'm talking to you now. And then, every once in a while, I don't think we had too many cases that were negative. I tried to avoid anything that was negative after my experience with the the whole demonic situation there. But yeah, I mean, it was crazy. Um, God, we did, and then after that, I basically went off on my own. And then, of course, you guys, if you've been following me for a long time, I started doing Black Star Canyon, and was go up there 3 or 4 times a week, and ended up doing ghost hunting up there, ghost hunting investigations with people. All right, so the drive home after those early cases, a lot of the times we would go in one car. We'd all meet up in my house, 4 or 5 of us. Sometimes we'd take more people depending on how big the location is. We had some locations that we needed like 10, 11, 12 investigators because we were investigating like whole ships, like the Queen Mary and stuff like that, or whole huge locations, warehouses and businesses and stuff like that. We didn't only do homes. But on our way home, we definitely did talk about what we experienced. You always want to do it when it's fresh on your mind. What did you see? What did you hear? Did you experience anything paranormal? And if you didn't, why didn't, were you in the same areas as other people? Did you hear, did you experience something that, why didn't you experience what they experienced? And when we want to know why they didn't experience it or what they thought. Maybe they did experience it, but they're just writing it off as something else. Maybe they thought it was something else. And so we discussed the case pretty much all the way home. And a lot of times, a lot of people were tired and would fall asleep on the drive home. But we definitely didn't sit in silence. We would talk about our breakdown, how we were going to break things down, and how fast we could get it done. When I was with the California Ghost Hunters, usually it was 4 days. We would break everything down within 4 days and try and get it back to the clients that following week, so they had something. We would go sit down with them and show them, present the evidence, depending on how far away they were. We definitely, after we were done personally reviewing all of our personal evidence that we got off our own audio recorders, the video recorders, and the DVR camera, we would sit down and do kind of like a Zoom meeting, and we would share the audio and the video, pictures, any kind of evidence that we got, if we got anything at all, or if we had any personal experiences, we would talk about those, and then it would all get documented down, and then we would talk about it to the clients. Did I ever doubt myself? Yes, there was multiple times where I doubted myself. Being more open to the paranormal and experiencing it for so long and so often, I definitely would experience a lot more than other people. And unfortunately, a lot of the time we couldn't document it. And so I would doubt, okay, did I really see that? Did I really feel that? Was that really something I heard? Did I really hear that? Maybe I heard something else. And so going back through the evidence, I was like, okay, I'd be looking for validation of what I experienced because you could hear me on the audio recorder. Did you see that? Did you hear that? What was that? Whatever. Um, and then, of course, everybody else is doing the same thing if they had experienced something to see if they could hear what I heard or see what I saw on the camera. Um, did I laugh it off? No, I never laughed it off. I don't think the paranormal is funny at all. I think it's very serious. And the more I do this, the more comfortable I've gotten with it. But, I never laugh. The only time I've ever laughed is if they essentially do something that maybe scares me and it's playful scary. Maybe I'm walking into a room and all of a sudden, something happens behind me and it seems playful because there's, you can see the kids behind me. I mean, the dolls behind me. They like to turn the TV on as you're standing there facing, you turn around to grab the remote to turn the TV off. You just turn it off. You're setting the TV down, and all of a sudden, boom, the TV comes on full blast right behind you. And you're, oh, and then essentially, uh, you go, you little brats. It's just laughing about it. But anyways, there's things like that happen that are playful, that are maybe not, not so scary, that are just meant to be, hey, I'm here, I'm just playing, I'm not, there's no harm here. I'm not something worse. I'm a little kid and I just want to have somebody pay attention to me, maybe. Maybe it's an attention getter or whatever, but so what you got wrong in the beginning? Oh boy, what didn't I get wrong in the beginning? Um, Never make assumptions. Never make assumptions. When I'm sitting here listening to the client and they're telling me all this stuff and it really sounds like it's demonic, and I'm like, okay, you know what? We got to go in there guns blazing, um, bringing all the religious stuff with me, got the holy water packed up, got my Bible, and I'm going to go in there and we're going to remove this negative entities from this house, right? And you get there and you're listening and whatever it is it's innocent. It's not demonic at all. Um, and you get voices and you're like, and you get EVPs of voices talking back to you and telling you things, and you're like, oh, whoa, I was completely wrong about that. Completely misread this case, right? Or going in and thinking that it isn't demonic, and you're like, okay, this sounds just like a playful case. Maybe it's some kids. Um, it should just be an easy case. We'll just go in, we'll record some audio, get some EVPs, maybe get some K2 hits, and if we're using, back then, that's basically all we had. Um, and try and figure out what this is, and let the client know, okay, look, it's nothing, and then it turns out to be something. And and then, other things that can happen, misreading natural sounds. Um, I didn't realize how good the audio recorders were. I mean, there's a freeway 5 miles away from the house that you're at, and you can hear the freeway clearly on the audio recorder. In fact, it drowns out a lot of the EVPs that are going on. You think you hear you hear someone kind of whisper on the audio recorder, and you're trying to listen back, and all you hear is street noise behind it, right? And you're like, damn it, or some other kind of contamination noise. And you're like, dang it, I can't understand that. But there's a voice here, but you can't understand what it's saying because it's drowned out by whatever the noise is behind it. Um, but sometimes, animals make noises, birds and other things. Basically, pipes and stuff, wood at night can shrink and make noises to sound like footsteps, and it was a high learning curve. I'll tell you that much. It wasn't easy, and what was that? And getting all excited, and every little noise we heard, like jumping. What was that? What was that? And having to learn. Okay, this is what one of the things that TAP family member teams teach you. You got to debunk. You got to figure out how to figure out. I hate the word debunk. You got to find other explanations for what that could be. And so, in our exploratory basically fashion, we went in and had started figuring out how to find out what those things were. If you tell the homeowner, hey, this is footsteps, and it's actually ice in the refrigerator falling into the little ice tray in there, uh, it can sound like footsteps, and other things can sound like footsteps too. Hearing what sounds like a door creaking open could have just been something else, and basically wanting too badly for everything to be paranormal. That was one thing that I had to learn. I really had to learn is to calm down, slow down, and I always say get it right. But having to figure out what those noises were and wanting everything to be paranormal, it's kind of like I say, my normal saying is, you just basically have to have an experience for yourself before you can say it is or isn't paranormal. Well, it's kind of very similar. You have to kind of slow down and regain your composure and think about what you just saw or heard or experienced and try and rationalize it just a little bit. Not completely rationalize it till it's nothing, right? Don't overdo it either. Don't over rationalize. But basically slow down, go back and maybe rewatch the video, rewatch the audio. I mean, we re-listen to the audio. Maybe there's a DVR camera in the room with you. Try and figure out what it was. Go back and try and relive that moment through whatever documentation you're using, whether it's an audio recorder, video camera, something. Or and then also have a conversation with other people in the room with you, see what they experienced, right? Don't overanalyze it. Understanding the environment basically is huge. If you're in a house, especially at night, it gets cold. The house is going to creak and crack. It's going to make noises, and making sure that surfaces. Let's say you set a ball down like this, and you set it on a table, and all of a sudden it rolls off. Well, is that table level? Is that floor level? Sometimes in houses, especially older homes, the houses they settle a little tiny bit, and things are not level. Maybe the door in the bedroom keeps opening on its own. They close the door and it's not quite closed, and the door will open by itself. Well, you got to go take a level, put it on top of the door, and make sure that door's level. If it's level, then maybe you have something. But anyways, the first lessons the paranormal taught me, definitely patience, definitely respect, definitely humility, being in control of my fears and my emotions, and check your ego at the door for sure. Me today and me 30 years ago, these two people, completely different people. I am level today. I'm patient. I'm respectful. I'm humble. I don't have an ego. I am very much in control of myself. Back here, not so much. When you go into a location, you have to be super patient. Like I was saying, when you first walk into a location, it might take 2 or 3 times into a location before you actually start to get any kind of evidence. You've been there 3 or 4 times, nothing's happened, you've not gotten any audio, no video, and never experienced anything, but the client's telling you, there's something going on in my house. And so you have to go in and you have to just sit there and be patient. You have to build, like I said, you have to build that trust with whatever's there. And you have to kind of let them kind of feel out, get used to you. You have to build respect with them. They have to understand that you're not there to hurt them. It's like I said before, if I came walk into your living room, well, if I'd done it 3 or 4 times before, you might come out and say, okay, this guy's kind of cool. He's been very polite. He's been very courteous. He's been asking me questions, and maybe he's asking me personal questions that maybe talk about me, like the dad. and maybe I brought his son in there to have the son ask questions, and the son said, these guys are just here to help you, and we're just trying to get you to the point where you, for whatever reason you're here, you feel comfortable moving on. Do you have something to tell me? Is there something I need to know? And I'm talking as a son. Um, and then we earn the respect of the entity there. We show humility. We're not just hotshot ghost hunters there to grab a quick piece of evidence and get out of there. And now we've got a YouTube sensation, right? Oh, look at this door opening on its own, and blah blah blah. If you go into a case where the entity is super duper strong, and there are very strong human entities, they're very powerful. They can move things. They can talk. You'll hear disembodied voices. You might hear footsteps. Things might move on their own. You might get pushed. You might get shoved. You might get hit. You might get, there's a lot of things that can happen in these cases. And it doesn't have to be the D word. It doesn't have to be demonic, right? But basically, yeah. Excuse me, guys. I didn't mean to cough in your ear. But essentially, there's a huge learning curve, like I said. And if you're not patient, if you're not respectful, if you're not humble, if you're not mentally in control of your own emotions and your own mental strength, and if you have an ego, these things will mess with you. They will. It doesn't matter if it's demonic or not. They will mess with you. You ever dealt with a little kid that basically you're trying to discipline, and they're in a mood, they're going to throw a temper tantrum, right? Well, imagine a little kid that you can't control, that you can't see, that can do all kinds of stuff, right? They've learned how to move stuff. They've learned how to talk. They've learned how to do all these things. Well, imagine them with you being, Mr. Ego walking in there. They're going to humble you real quick. And almost any other very strong human spirit will. And definitely the demonic definitely will as well. If you go in there and you're splashing holy water around and stuff like that, and you're telling it needs to leave, good luck. It's gonna get pissed off, right? Anyways, how those first cases changed me. I learned, like I said, a very heavy learning curve. I went in there cocky. I didn't have an ego, but I was definitely cocky. I was, again, skeptical. I was not very patient. I might not have been as respectful as I should have been. I definitely wasn't humble, and I definitely was not in control, evidently. I got on one case, this was probably one of my last cases with the California ghost hunters. I got scratched, burned, and bitten and choked out all in the same night by the same entity. And I don't know if I should have said that so loud, because I don't know if a man has ever heard that. But yeah, that case definitely changed me. And I've been through thousands of homes at that point. Homes, businesses, ships, land. I thought everything, but no. I became way more observant. I saw the shadow in this room. Somebody flipped the light on, and the shadow walked across the room, and I was terrified for the other investigator. I thought they were going to get hurt. I'm definitely way more cautious now. I wouldn't say I'm more skeptical, but like I said, I am definitely more grounded, more less reactive. Definitely. I've learned that you have to just go in very humbly to any investigation. I don't care if it's good or bad, or somewhere in the middle. You have to go in thinking that, okay, you basically have to be a detective. You have to go in and you basically have to start looking for clues. You have to figure out what actually is going on. You have to use what the homeowners told you. And then there's a whole nother side of that story, right? You have to learn to cautiously try and communicate with these entities. What is their deal? You have to remember that people that were non-religious, during their life are non-religious during their afterlife as well. They're there for a reason. They don't believe in God, right? Or didn't believe in God. They're stuck. And they're basically there living whatever their life is at this point, and they're trying to um I don't know what they're trying to do. I think they're just trying to interact with us, and they're trying to be part of society still, but they're not. They're not part of society. Maybe they have unfinished business. Maybe they have something else. But if you go in there and you're not observant, you're going to miss things. If you're not cautious, if you miss something, you could get hit, right? You could be hurt. If you're not skeptical, a little bit skeptical at least, and you're making everything out to be a ghost, you're going to mislead the client. You're also going to, you're going to think everything's a ghost, and basically, you're going to get discredited pretty quick. Always should be grounded. Always, always, always. If you're not grounded, they can manipulate your mind. And whether it's a ghost or a Bigfoot or whatever, I mean, you just basically have to be less reactive to them, because they can manipulate you. And you got to remember, your brain's just like a computer. Your brain has electrical currents going through it, and I believe that spirits can use energy to manipulate us. I mean, whether they're showing themselves on a video camera or you manipulating the audio recorder through with energy to create a voice or noise or whatever to communicate with us, or they're physically able to somehow make a noise that we hear with our own ears, or you see a disembodied entity, a disembodied voice, whatever. If you aren't careful, you're going to get hurt, and either mentally or physically or both, or you can hurt someone else too. You can misjudge the case. You can make it into more than it actually is. You can scare people. You can cause them to move out of their homes. And in worst case scenarios, maybe they do harm to themselves because they're so afraid of what's going on. They do something rash. So you got to be really careful. That's a lot of the things I've learned. You really got to keep it low key, and really got to make sure that what you're presenting to them is 100% real, and that it's not going to scare the living bejesus out of them, especially because most of the time you go into these locations, these people are terrified. And about, I don't know, 70-80% of the time, it's actually not a ghost. It's actually something else. I mean, unfortunately, I hate the word debunk, but we can find alternative explanations for a lot of things. Stress and all these other things can cause a lot of people to think that something's going on. I mean, ghosts are now way more believed than they were when I first started 30 years ago. I mean, when I was growing up, if you said the word ghost or demon or psychic, they lock you up. They put you in a mental institute, right? And then back, 15, 20, about 20 years later, when I started actually investigating these cases, it was a little bit more easy to talk about ghosts. People were a little bit more open to it, right? Nowadays, I mean, you say ghosts, there's ghost hunters everywhere, paranormal researchers everywhere, and it's just widely accepted. But back when I first started, no, it wasn't accepted at all. And most of the people were like, what the heck are you doing that for? Why would you want to do that? Now it's like, oh, you're cool, you're a ghost hunter. Yeah. But anyways, number 10, the bridge to Bigfoot. So as I talked about, after I left the California Ghost Hunters, I kind of resigned from that. I just needed a break. We were doing 4 to 5 to 6 cases a month. I was going out sometimes twice a week, and it was just too much. It was overwhelming. It became a full-time job. It basically consumed me. And literally go to work, come home, spend 4 or 5 hours breaking down audio, video, and then basically go to bed for 3 or 4 hours, go to work, come back and do the same thing. Never seeing Amanda. Always so busy doing the ghost hunting that it almost cost me my marriage. So, anyways, I needed a break, so I took a break from that, and we kind of started re-engaging, Amanda and I, and we were able to rebuild our relationship. And that, talking about the paranormal teaching is something. I should have taken a break a lot sooner, to be honest with you. But I still wanted to go ghost hunting, and I still wanted to get out. I still needed it. And Amanda was okay with that as long as I kept it under control. And so I started going out to like San Juan Capistrano, and other places, the Colorado Streets Suicide Bridge in Los Angeles, Pasadena, California. I started going to Black Star Canyon, which I'd only been to a couple times. And almost all the time I was by myself. Every once in a while, she would come with me, or a few other people come with us. And we go out to Black Star Canyon. I mainly focused on Black Star Canyon. And I didn't know much about the canyon and heard all these bad things about it. And so I wanted to see what it was for myself. And that's one thing that ghost hunting taught me. Always do your own research. Don't believe other people's research. Just because somebody else says, "Oh, I had this happen," doesn't mean it really happened. A lot of people will over exemplify things. I mean, they'll make it out to be more than it actually was, and maybe they did have all those experiences. So don't completely disqualify them either. But just because these locations, if you go online and you see all these things happening at these locations, doesn't mean it's true. You really have to do your own research, as I've always said. So I go out to this location, I start doing ghost hunting, and it's kind of fun. And I'm out there, all times of the day and night, and got up to about 3 or 4 times a week. And it wasn't the point where I was gone all the time. But the times I did go out there, I started using a K2 and doing EVP sessions. And I started communicating with things, and I got really good at it. And the entities that were out there, we kind of got to know each other and felt comfortable with each other. And so it wasn't until I started doing ghost hunting tours about 7 or 8 years later that I had my first Bigfoot experience. And you guys have heard me talk about that before. But anyways, what we'll do is we'll talk about the Bigfooting probably on the next podcast, guys. Everybody asked me if you could go back to that first case, would I still open that door? Yeah, I would, because it's completely changed how I view the paranormal. All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and we will catch you guys on the next one.